All right, I got him.
Ah, okay. Brian's got you. Great. Thank you. It's okay. Bye.
All right.
Sweet.
There we are. You're
Yeah.
sideways. Are you laying down in
Oh yeah,
bed?
yeah. You want me to? Well, I have it on my camera.
Yeah.
I guess adjustable sideways.
Yeah. Whatever you're doing, flip it.
Okay.
There we go. Awesome.
Let's see if I can stabilize that.
I love it.
All right. Yeah. How are you
How are you
doing?
doing, buddy?
Good.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you too. Just got back from Glenwood. Still just like finishing up, not pruning, but just tying canes down because everything's popping out.
Yeah, I bet.
Spring's definitely sprung. So not, I mean, in a normal year, we'd definitely be behind schedule, but it's right now it's okay to be a little bit behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
so
I saw some of the pictures you posted on Instagram today. Look, the flower scene is going wild.
yeah, it's just starting to, like today, like we've had weird winter. Like we had almost no rain I think we had no rain in February and like half of January. So it felt like summer early on, and we luckily got some rain in March and like April, but first real sunny day in a few weeks, it's felt like.
Oh, nice,
So,
nice. Well, cool,
um,
man. Well,
yeah,
thanks for getting on. This is exciting.
yeah. No, I'm stoked. First time doing a live tasting.
I know I had Steve Mathiasen on last week, and it was essentially his first time doing it actually live. I think he had taken over somebody's Instagram account once, but it's always a fun adventure getting everybody on here, and it's really cool. So I just think
Yeah,
it's a great way to connect, and with all the bullshit going on nowadays, with
yeah,
nobody being able to go anywhere, and we have so many fun wines that are here in Tennessee. So this is just a great way for us to share them with people not only in Tennessee but all over the country.
yeah. They're kind of forced out of boredom to maybe watch right now.
I mean, what else do you have to do besides drink wine, play on Instagram, or like
Yeah,
watch Netflix or something like that, right? I don't know what else
totally.
there's to do. Yeah. Go for a run. That's about it. So, yeah, so let's get started. So I think both of us
Yeah,
have the same wine here.
for sure.
La
Um,
Chuchaquis
yeah,
2019, right?
yeah. We should crack it open.
We should.
I'll try to get some sound effects closer up. And yeah, I'm using
Are you?
we actually don't even have an opener at the winery currently. So, shockingly,
This may be my favorite moment ever, just so you know.
well, I'm doing a real bad job, but yeah, we did get the cap off with some channel locks.
You did
So
good. You did good.
I don't want to use my teeth.
No, I mean, I can't imagine you'd have a wine opener at the winery anyway. That seems ridiculous.
Yeah, why have one of those things?
Not when you have channel locks. So yeah, so
Now
here
if
we
you have
go.
channel locks, and if you use a lot of screw caps, it's just really an
That's right.
unnecessary expense.
So 2019 La Chuchaquis under crown cap, right?
Yeah,
You froze up. You froze up on us just a hair, Ryan.
Chuchaquis, but some people say Los Chuchaquis. So it's you can say however you want. Are you still freezing up?
You're froze up just a little, buddy.
Okay. I don't know if my maybe my connection's not super good. Is it still freezing
I
up
mean,
on you?
I can hear you pretty good. It's a little fuzzy,
Okay.
but yeah. So all right. So you pronounce it one more time how you would pronounce it.
Los Chuchaquis.
Okay.
Yeah, Los
So I've been.
Chuchaquis. So it doesn't matter, but it's Albarino from Santa Barbara County, from the C5 vineyard, which is kind of just right along, like not right on the banks of the Santa Ynez River, but it's kind of in the river stream terrace, if you will. So pretty flat vineyard, in a warm-ish area of the Santa Ynez Valley. So that valley runs perpendicular to the coast, which is pretty unique. But it's like this vineyard's about halfway in the valley, so I would say it's on the warmer side. So it still has a crazy diurnal influence, but it's like an inland type of vineyard. So you still get fog, and that kind of confuses you, but it's a hot spot. And so
Gotcha.
Not, I mean, maybe not like Albarino's ancestral homeland,
Right.
Quite as much. So we do pick this, relatively early, and I think this year we picked, got to be around the 20th or so of September, which is kind of, it was, later than I would have expected, but still not like, I mean, all things considered, it's not, it's relatively early.
Right.
But, what, I guess, super simple winemaking. So this is actually not like pet nat, like standard pet nat. This is like Col Fondo in style. And, I don't really know exactly what the rules are that pertain to that, but we just freeze a little bit of juice at harvest. So we reserve about 7% of just the juice after pressing, after settling, basically. And we'll freeze that in buckets. And that becomes our little sugar that we add back in right before bottling to add, to let this thing bubble back up. And that's just a much easier way to dial in the amount of RS that you need for like the amount of bubbles that you want, because it is pretty challenging during harvest to make pet nat. Just logistically speaking, you have to kind of stop everything and bottle on a certain day while everything else is going on, and it's pretty impractical, for somebody my size when we have quite a few other projects going on. And so This is just a method that we found that's super simple. And I mean, just like making any other wine, any of our other white wines like this, gets pressed, and then we oxidize the juice. So we'll splash it over the top of the tank and let it ferment pretty hot. So it ferments and does not develop a lot of like estery characters. It's a pretty neutral wine, and kind of highlight, just the acid more than anything.
Yeah. So for us in Tennessee, we've now had, last year's 2018 vintage, which was our first experience with this wine. And then now we're just now getting, our allocation, 2019 vintages here. Any difference between what's the difference between the vintages? Any difference in winemaking style, or is it exactly the same winemaking style?
A little bit different. So we actually made a wine with a little bit less effervescence this year. And the idea behind that is it's just, I find a little bit easier to drink. I love having bubbly beverages. I drink sparkling water almost too much, maybe like some people, but like, I just find this wine drinks a little bit better in my eyes, just being a little bit less intensely sparkly. Gotcha. And so it's more like a hybrid between like Vinho Verde and like a pet nat, made with Albarino in that way. And we're still able to make this, without using any sulfur, and it retains all that freshness, and you get some of the oxidative characters in the, that winemaking style. But, the wine being so young and fresh as it is, I just think this style fits pretty well. And, we'll see if it, does develop differently with like a few more months. But, this particular wine just gets drunk so quickly anyway that, we hold like a few cases back here at the winery and then like try those periodically. But I so far much prefer the wine, like probably between 6 months, like 5-6 months after bottling till like a year, 18 months. And it's kind of in its prime. Gotcha.
So in the 2008, so what was the difference in making it less effervescent over the 2018?
It's
Good.
literally just the amount of sugar that you put
Okay.
back in,
Gotcha.
in form of frozen juice. So like literally we'll like the whole breakdown of what happens is go pick the grapes, bring them back here. We'll press as hard as we can right into a tank, chill it down. And then as we're racking the juice, we leave, you know, most of the solids behind. So we have a pretty clean juice. We'll immediately put a percentage of that in buckets, more than we need, and just toss it in our meat freezer. And it sits there for 5-6 weeks in the meat freezer. And then
Gotcha.
the rest of the juice will just finish fermentation within 3 to 4 weeks, basically, all spontaneous. And so we let things get pretty hot so it finishes clean and quick, pretty much, in a nutshell. And
Awesome.
there is still some activity when we put the frozen juice back in. And so we'll add that in the night before we bottle and just stir it back up. And there's usually enough activity that things will kind of tick in bottle after 2 or 3 weeks. And there's a lot less lees when we do that method, since, you know, you have a couple weeks after the primary fermentation finishes, so it can settle out, and we don't even need to disgorge. So it's a really practical way to make sparkling wine it's low tech and low cost input, because making sparkling wine, your biggest cost is labor, and this is eliminating your biggest financial constraint. You know, so it kind of is killing a couple birds with one stone, just doing this kind of style of wine. It's just a lot more efficient, and you can do it naturally.
Yeah, well, it's delicious.
Kind
And
of
this is the first time I've obviously had the 2019. It's awesome. Super fresh. Like it's tasty.
Yeah, it's super fresh, and it's got like, you know, I feel like especially the white wines I make with no sulfur have a saltiness, and that's just from that oxidative characteristic.
Right.
You know, if you let that go a little bit too far, then it gets nutty. But when it's in this stage, you know, it kind of makes the wine taste a little bit more salty.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just a stylistic way to make something taste a little bit more mineral.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a way.
It's tasting real good. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fresh, and it is different than the 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still have a couple bottles of 18. I need to pop one soon, and kind of like maybe even like tomorrow with like the second half of this bottle and do a little side by side. That'd be kind of fun, actually.
For sure, because like this is like borderline not sparkling wine to a lot of people. You know, like it's effervescent, and it definitely, like, you can feel it in your mouth, but it's like you pop the bottle and it's not, you know, it's not going to make a loud gush, and it's not going to paint your walls or anything like that.
Right.
You know? So
right.
It's.
But I think the Vino Verde effort on your palate is kind of a good descriptor that you gave earlier.
Yeah, it's like a clean, natty Vino Verde. You know, it's got elements of that.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so before we move on, this is hands down one of all the wines we sell. This is hands down one of my favorite labels, just from a, you know, artistic aspect. So can you give folks just a little rundown on what the label is and that kind of thing? I think I kind of know, but you tell us.
Okay, yeah. So the label is, hold that up a second. Actually done by a tattoo artist in San Francisco, and this is his wife. And there's a peacock on her head. You know, I had nothing at all to do with it. It was all to this guy Cameron, who he does tattoos, and he's got a little like kind of gnarly, dirty like comic strip that he does.
Yeah.
And his art is like all over the place, and he just came up with this, I think, like 2016 when we started Los Chuchaquis. So this has like been our white wine label for the entire existence.
Yeah, I love it. And this is or is not actually tattooed on your back as well. Is that a rumor, or is that
not yet? Actually, I have no tattoos. So
I don't either, but this may be one of the first. It's pretty badass.
If I get a tattoo, I'll definitely have this guy do it. You know, I'll leave it up to him what he'd put on my back or wherever I'd get one.
Wherever, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's cool. It's a cool label. I think it's, it's just neat. It's different. So, all right. Before we move on to the next wine, anything else you want to say about that? Maybe I didn't think about or about this wine.
You know, I wish we made more of it. And so the plan is in 2020, just because like the last 2 years, it's a wine that's only been available for like a month. And,
Yeah.
the plan is to, try to make enough so it can be available like most of the year at the very least.
Yeah.
And it's something that like I'm really still learning how to make wines this style, and it's it's just a lot of fun because I have zero experience or background making sparkling wine, and I think for whatever the reason in 2020, it's a weird year already, might be making quite a bit of sparkling wine. So it's just the way the world's going.
Any sparkling Riesling on the horizon?
I mean, there's actually probably like 1% Riesling in here, but there might be some sparkling Riesling.
That's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, shocking. It's like what I'll probably if Riesling can find a way into something, I'll find a way to make that happen. So yeah, sparkling Riesling, very good chance of that.
Cool. So I kind of try to keep one corner of my eye on some of the questions. So somebody asked, it went by quick, but tattoo artist name once again for the label.
Oh yeah, Cameron Forbesley. Let me see if I'm saying that right. Yeah, Forbesley, not Forbesley.
Oh yeah, it's on the label.
It's on the label.
Forbesley.
And
yep.
You can find him on Instagram. I think it's just Cameron Forbesley Art. And his genre runs the gamut. The most noteworthy thing about this wine. So it was. I'm not a huge fan of hip hop, but Action Bronson had this at his art opening in San Francisco last year.
Oh, no kidding.
And that was like its first claim to fame, was at some art exhibition for a white rapper who's into food. So, but yeah.
And obviously good wine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't really know.
Well, we had it, who cares about that? Because we had it with a bunch of friends at the opening of Little House of Horrors, who my friend was in, and we popped these at the end of the performance, and it was amazing. So anyway,
no, good. Yeah,
we really did. It was great. It was great. My friends Tim and Garrett was in this performance, and this is what we drank after he did a killer show. So it was super cool.
Rad.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Let's get on to what I think is a big staple here for you. Wirz Riesling.
Big time. This is maybe I think it's my favorite vineyard. Definitely. I mean, for a lot of reasons. It's in a unique area. I'll show you guys a little glimpse of the wine too, because right behind me is actually the 2020 version of what we have in the glass, or 2019. Skipping years, but this vineyard, super cool. The fact that it still exists kind of blows my mind. It's more like a story of its own survival. Like, it found buyers for its entire existence, and it defied the odds because it's right now the second oldest Riesling vineyard still in production in North America, and that's just a testament to the fact that its fruit was just sold. Just merely the fact that it had a home meant that it could flavor from the 60s onward, as Chardonnay, and mostly Chardonnay, but Sauvignon Blanc as well, kind of rose in popularity. And so there was a lot of Riesling prior to the 1960s. It was actually one of the most planted white grapes in California for quite a long time. And then most of it just was grafted or ripped out. And so this only dates back to 1964, which is not that old, but there's very few white grape, vineyards that, are much older than that, you know, at all in California. So it's got some notoriety for that, but it's also in a hot climate, and it's planted on limestone, which is in a very short supply in California. So it's pretty unique, you know, geologically, and then it's farmed in the most old school California way possible. It's cross-cultivated dry farmed, so just all head train bush vines, and cross-cultivated means they just till it, so there's, you know, no weeds, and it's just vines. Looks like, you know, how they do in the south of France.
Right.
And, you know, so it's a hotter site, and you wouldn't think Riesling would do super well there, but the fact that it's dry farmed, and it's old and on limestone, you know, that helps the vines put out pretty low yields and retain acid even with the heat. So that's like a testament to limestone itself, you know, like chemically it makes a soil that's pretty alkaline, and the wines typically have that opposite effect in being higher in acid, you know, like
right.
in the Loire. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just a super unique little spot. And he's got, you know, Zinfandel planted in 1902 and into the 20s, and Cabernet Pfeffer and Rosa del Peru and all sorts of varieties out there. But it is similar to some of the older California vineyards of that era that go back to the 1900s that have Zin and things like that. But the Riesling is an anomaly that it still like exists at all. So
yeah. And this is the same vineyard that you get your Zin from, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 2017 vintage was actually just absolutely batshit crazy. Like, it got up to 117 degrees for 2 days during Labor Day weekend.
Oh, wow.
And the Zinfandel definitely took a nosedive and shriveled up and had some real issues. And the Riesling out here took it like a champ, and it hung on for another 3 weeks. And, you know, finished alcohol is pretty high, but it's not what you would expect. It's 13.5, and that's like the real alcohol. It's not like a fudgy number.
Right.
Whereas the Zin, you know, is a little bit more loosely based on 14.9. You know,
and I'm always amazed that wine is that high in alcohol, because it does not drink like it. The Zin.
For sure. Yeah. Exactly. It's got vitamin R. You know, it's got
exactly, which
help with some Riesling. So like this really is like some amazing juice, and like I feel strongly like this is like a pretty cool representative of like what California like did really well and still can do really well with not just things like Chardonnay. You know, like this is like this wine has so minimal inputs into it, and it turns out so well. It boggles my mind. You know, like it's so low tech compared to where like a lot of Chardonnay vineyards get every resource in the book thrown at them to be farmed really well, like on the Sonoma coast. And like this is like a harken back to just like the survivalist era of viticulture, where they were just trying to get fruit to just make wine. And the fact that it still happens to make like good wine with like such little input, just I don't know, it makes you think about, you know, your own practices a bit more, like what you should and you don't really need to do necessarily.
Right.
And I do not at all farm the same way as Pat Wirz, you know, but he does what he has worked well for, you know, at least 55 plus years, and he's still out there farming.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2017 right now, still current release, and it will be until the next fall. So we've started to like hold this Riesling back a little bit more as we could afford to. And so, because I think this develops with a little bit of bottle age. So even at like 13.5 alcohol, even compared to the sparkling Albarino, which is pretty zippy, definitely more acidic, this like comes across as having like pretty bright acid right now.
Yeah.
For as rich as it is.
So obviously, like kick on vineyard sites down in Santa Barbara area, and Wirz is it just north of Monterey? Am I correct?
Yeah, it's just east of Monterey, basically.
East. Okay.
So
East.
like the winery is kind of like centrally located between like the Santa Cruz Mountains, San Benito County, which is where the Wirz Vineyard is, and there's 5 different appellations in San Benito, and the Cienega Valley is a tiny little one, and Wirz is one of, I think, like 4 or 5 vineyards in the entire appellation.
Okay.
And then it's really the only significant white wine vineyard planting in the area besides the Chardonnay up at Eden Rift. So there's and it seems like they're in different appellations, even though they're a couple miles down the road. They're just kind of different vibes. But yeah, that particular valley it's like stepping back into a different universe. You're 45 minutes from Silicon Valley, and you go out to the Wirz Vineyard, and you're still using a tractor that has a crank start, for harvest, and it's so it's like it's a serious like butt of like 2 different worlds like kind of coming together out there, and it was so much history too.
Yeah.
It's just it's a cool spot.
Yeah. So then the winemaking, barrel tank, whatever on this Wirz vineyard, what's the kind of rundown on the winemaking?
Very simple, just like the Albarino. Gets pressed, but I do something different. All the Rieslings spend usually a day or 2 days on skins. So I'll just crush everything up when we bring it to the winery. The general rule of thumb is the warmer the fruit at harvest, the less time on skins we give it. And so if it's a hot day, probably sometimes we'll just do a few hours of skin contact. And if it's a cold harvest day, then we'll do a little bit longer. So things just extract faster and oxidize faster when they're hotter. So just varies every year. And so after that, we just press and goes into a tank, settles, and ferments in stainless and ages in stainless, and does not get racked off its gross lees. And it goes through full malolactic fermentation all in tank, and just gets racked 2 times before bottling. So it's simple. Gets sold for about a month before bottling.
Gotcha. There you go. Cool. That's a great wine.
Yeah. No, I don't want to say it makes itself, because it doesn't. And I've had Riesling from the Wirz Vineyard from 5 or 6 different producers, and everybody has a different style. Some make it off dry, and they're all they all have like their own sets of charms, and some people block malolactic, and some people ferment in barrel, and they all do have like a strong like Wirz character at the core, and some of them are super, super interesting. Some people do skin contact, and then actually quite a few make sparkling Wirz Riesling, and that can be super good as well.
So if or maybe whatever the sparkling one that you are going to possibly be doing, what vineyard site may it be coming from?
Probably not Kick On, just because there's not that, I don't get that much fruit from them.
Yeah.
Could be Wirz. We make a lot of the Riesling we get gets turned into rosé. So and a lot of the Wirz, Riesling this year will obviously get made into rosé. We might, just given the circumstances this year, we might end up making more Riesling than we did, quite a bit more Riesling than we did in 2018, but we might age as make 2 different cuvées and age some longer in a tank. So for an additional year, possibly, just for an experiment, but we'll see. But there's also a vineyard in Monterey that I started working with last year, and they have some Riesling that could also probably work really well for sparkling.
Oh, cool. Yeah, one thing I know when we hung out with you last year, and I hate it we couldn't make our California trip, but obviously nobody's going anywhere. But one thing I was really impressed with some of the vineyard sites that we walked together, how you're really into kind of rehabbing some vineyard sites and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, it's just that's where the opportunity is, and that plain and simple. It's where I do business is butts up to Silicon Valley, and it's expensive like it is almost everywhere in the U.S. to be in business or own anything, and there's all sorts of opportunities and lack of opportunities that come with that as your paradigm, but at the very least, like there's still plenty of opportunity here and plenty of like good deals. So leasing vineyards here that have some potential, because I don't think all of them have potential. It depends on the relationship with like the people who own it, because that's a number one factor. And vineyard size and accessibility and how bad of neglect it's in and what kind of time frame you're looking at. But by and large, there's quite a few opportunities to lease things and long term to improve them and have some sort of stability. And so I lease 2 vineyards right now, and I've leased the Glenwood vineyard since 2016, and that's where like majority of my fruit comes from in the Santa Cruz Mountains right now, while another vineyard that has Cabernet on it is just getting rehabbed. So, and we'll probably add, not this year, but in the future, in like another year or two, we'll probably add 2 more vineyards to the Santa Cruz mix, including planting at the winery.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So, yeah, we have like 2 acres just at the winery, not in any wine region, and it'd be perfect as an experiment for we're going to do a rootstock experiment and,
cool.
and make wine from it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You got a great view out of the back of that winery. I enjoyed
totally.
it. Yeah, we enjoyed it when we were there for sure.
Luckily, I actually live right down the street now. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I just moved in January.
Yeah.
So like a mile away. Pretty lucky.
That's a beautiful area for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is the shit you think of while you shit book still there?
The log, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
That was the gift of my first employee, Sarah, and she decorated the bathroom initially, and the shit log. It's called the log. Yeah, it's still there.
Oh, I thought it was the shit you think of while you shit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. That's the the subtitle. We added some like kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right word. My mom got me like these like dollar store like grape lights, like Christmas light type things, and we put those in the bathroom.
Nice.
And we got some house plants in there from my wife's store, so it's improved a little bit.
Oh wow, you guys are really bringing it up a notch.
Yeah, little by little.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh well, man, it's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look to see. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna see. So I have a hard time keeping an eye on the questions, but if anybody has a couple questions for Ryan, fire them off. I know this thing's on a little bit of a delay, so I'll look for them. Or Ryan, can you even see the questions? I have no idea how this shit works.
I see my buddy Drake Whitcraft.
There you go.
And, he should ask something.
Yeah, my buddy Steve Rohn just joined. Yep. So I'm gonna have a little more pet nat. This pet nat's killer.
You have a Burgundy mat behind you?
Yes. Yeah, both the.
Sweet. That reminds me, like my first like assistant winemaker job. It was like all about Burgundy, and I feel like that entire viewpoint was held by like so many different winemakers in California at the same time. Like everybody was trying to make like the, you know, Burgundy wine's kind of a thing. And I don't feel like that even, if you're aiming for that still, like, I don't know that many people still aiming for that anymore, you know? It's crazy how that has shifted, you know, that quickly away.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Right. That was like one of our first wine trips. Like Portugal was our first wine trip, but then Burgundy, like, you know, but it was fun. 'Cause the cool thing is like Burgundy's these prestigious wines, and we were just meeting with farmers on their kitchen table. Like it was so cool, so down to earth, you know, and you know, the wines are great. But all right, trying to look for. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. Questions. There's a
sulfur amount on the Wirz Riesling. So that's a great question. Total parts per million, I'd have to look exactly on the lab data, but on this one, I believe it's 27 or 29 parts total. So that, I think a lot of people get confused by that number, because a lot of times you know, in the natural wine world, people get asked this question, like, how, you know, how much sulfur do you have in the wine? And there's in an academic, not an academic setting, in any statistical setting, you know, measuring that amount, there's your free sulfur, your molecular sulfur, your total sulfur, and all that differs from the amount of sulfur that you add to your wine. And so what this means is, like, wineries will add either potassium metabisulfite or liquid SO2, which is just water that's dosed with a sulfur gas for a certain amount of time to a certain concentration that you can measure. And then you can dose that into the wine. And both have their, you know, drawbacks and their perks, their eases of use. And I use potassium metabisulfite. And so I typically add sulfur twice. And for the whites, they get sulfured about a month before bottling. And then I'll do a touch-up if needed a couple of days before bottling. So we'll sulfur, then send stuff out to a lab to measure like the wine data, like final before bottling, just because depending on what market that wine's going to, we do need to have lab data to verify all sorts of things. I mean, especially alcohol. So we do have our own in-house lab for some basic stuff, but we send out like quite a bit to a lab just because we don't have the time to invest in doing like labs for all our wines.
Right.
But yeah, so total sulfur is the measurement of just total like sulfur that's both free in solution and bound. So typically that would, you know, be the amount that you add, although some of that doesn't necessarily show up in a lab test. So on the labs is the best way to show anybody, because it's measurable. You can get free molecular and total sulfur to get measured, and they're all they show different things about the wine. So molecular is a number that's used to show a concentration of sulfur, and you use that as a measuring stick against pH to see if you have an effective protectant from like microbes based on university research. And a lot of people, I mean, I would say most wineries use that as like a general guiding principle when it comes to sulfur. So some people will aim for 0.8 parts molecular SO2 for red wines to be safe.
Cool, you know? Cool.
And a little bit less for whites, or a little bit more for whites rather. And then like 30 parts free sulfur would be like the equivalent measurement for like, as a general rule of thumb, not total. Total would be, most of the industry would be between 100 and 200 parts total.
Yeah.
As a general rule.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you know, the amount you're adding, like all your wines are coming off always clean and super fresh, and like, you know, never had one that's jacked up or whatever. They're really enjoyable.
Well, honestly, like it was like looking at the numbers that, you know, I realized you don't need to add that much to Riesling because the you know, the pHs are always, you know, generally like pretty low. You know, like if you have fruit that is never really above 3.3 in pH, like there's a pretty low likelihood of a lot of different things, you know, like negatively impacting the wine. So, you know, you just need less sulfur to have an effective dose against like quite a bit. And so Riesling is just, you know, a good candidate to make with a little bit less, you know, in general.
Yeah, cool.
Makes it easy.
So a couple other questions I kind of saw fly by while you're talking about sulfur, which was an awesome in-depth deal. But so we're doing well with your Pinot here in Tennessee. It's not a wine we're tasting tonight. Just give us like a brief rundown on your Santa Cruz Mountains Pinot Noir.
That's just like, if you want to taste something that's just all made by hand, like the old school way, but done in 2000, you know, 20 and beyond. It's a wine that is, it's a mountain wine. It's from a vineyard it's not super steep, but there's parts of it that are like, you know, 30% slope. So it's at 1,000 feet elevation, but still within, you know, 8 miles of the ocean, you know, so it's a both mountain and an ocean wine. And that's, you know, that's classic Santa Cruz Mountains, surrounded by redwoods, all dry farm, so no irrigation at all. That's the vineyard I was at today, you know, showing a bunch of
cool.
From.
Yeah, with the flowers, nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's no
till.
Like, it's just like, again, you know, I was talking about like people who are like minimalists, like Pat Wirz, like, you know, I don't spend money on cover cropping out there. We don't till anything. We don't like, so like that, I mean, just like things like that. We don't, like, you don't need to add a cover crop. Like, shit will stay on there year round if you let it. And you don't necessarily need to like spend the money and labor and the time to enhance soil fertility in that kind of a intrusive method that costs that much money. I don't think the benefits outweigh the cost necessarily, especially if you're leasing something. And that, like, my data has proven that like I've boosted my yields quite a bit, like consistently year over year by dry farming and no till. Like, so it's like I'm using less resources and getting better yields just by better farming. So better pruning methods or better, you know, viticultural management and, you know, better spray timing and better applications of the sprays themselves. And it's like you just get better at each little farming task to increase your production, you know, basically. And you can do it without using any water and not tilling. And it's like, and like building, like I have native perennial grasses in the vineyard that stay green all the way until August. You know, like that shit doesn't even grow in native preserves.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah,
it's like it shows that like you can kind of do, you know, I wouldn't call it regenerative because you're still doing agriculture and you're still farming it and you're not allowing wildlife to live in there, but it's boosting yields over time and increasing fertility and farming. It's in that kind of sense, it's sweet, you know, and you're not having to put a lot of inputs. And it's like, that's something that you can replicate and do on a large scale, you know, just improving your practices a little bit, increasing your efficiency, you know, and that kind of what gets me stoked. And at the same time, you're increasing fruit quality, you know, because you're not diluting it with anything.
Right. Awesome. All right, looking for any other quick questions and we'll start to wrap it up.
I should send you some of the 2018 Wirz Rieslings because that's a much different wine. It's the 18 was a polar opposite, emphasis on the polar. It was just like a much cooler.
Yeah, much colder. Yeah. I'll be excited. To taste those. I'm excited at how Tennessee has done so well with your wines. I think it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, it's feels super random. It's like I'd never even been out there, but
yeah,
you know, maybe I should. You know,
we'd love to have you out here and do some stuff once.
When the world opens back up.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, yeah. In fact, it's our anniversary tonight. We've been working together for 1 year.
Oh,
give or take a week. A week, but it's been a year that you've been in Tennessee. So yeah.
Epic.
I think that's awesome. So anyway, all right, man. We're gonna wrap it up. Ryan,
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, and stoked to have my wines out there, and I'm happy that we're hanging in and optimistic to just stay in business and keep going. You know.
Yeah. Well, everybody's digging in and doing their thing, and we'll get through it. It'll all be good. I look forward to being out in California, hopefully sometime soon.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Ryan, thank you. Thank you all you guys for watching, and we'll sign off and go drink some more good juice from STiRM.
Yeah, take it easy.